Is the world out there just driving you crazy? Well, listen to something just a little bit less crazy. This is Mike Dell's World.
Yeah, this is Mike Dell's World, and I don't remember what number it is, but this is for Sunday, December 20th, 2020. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. And yeah, it's kind of late on a Sunday evening, but I've been busy and productive. That's kind of not my norm. Normally on Sunday I do sort of rest, hang out, do my ham radio stuff in the morning, and then usually just hang out and watch movies or whatever, the weather is somewhat crappy, although it was a nice day today. So let's see, what did I do today? So I got the headlights mounted on the tractor and wired in, and they work really great. And then I went out and drove around the yard with the tractor just to, drive around with the tractor. And I go to pull it back into its spot in the garage. I back up, I go forward a little bit, and then I back up a little bit more to get it over a little further. And then when I pulled forward, the rear wheel spun. I'm like, what's going on? Then I look at the front, and the left front tire is turned hard to the left, and the right front tire is turned hard to the right. I said, oh, that's not good. So, such is life with a 50-year-old tractor. So anyway, I kind of got it back in the middle of the garage where I could jack it up, see what's going on, and I had broke a tie rod end, where the little ball, socket and ball joint, I guess you'd call it, but right on the end of the tie rod. And I broke one of those on the left side. And I was like, oh, shoot, where am I going to get one of those? And I thought about it, and I got two spare tractors in the backyard, so I went and tried to pull it off the one that we had been using, and that one is just new enough. It's only, it's later in 72, where the one I'm currently using is a 71, and the other old one I've got is an early 71. Well, anyway, I went to pull the tie rod end off of the 72, and I couldn't get it to, or the newer 72, and I couldn't get it to come off. I futzed with it for probably half an hour anyway, enough to where I got fed up with it. And then I got to looking at it, and it's not the same. They changed just enough on that later 72 model. The John Deere's, the 110s, 112s, and all that. They had, two different versions, well, three different versions. There's the round fender version that was, from 64 to 67. And then in 68, they came out with the square fender ones. That's what I've got. And they made those all the way up through, I think, 73 before they switched to the 200 series, which were basically the same tractor with a different sheet metal. But one of the big differences between the early 72 and the late 72 and later was they had, the early ones had a clutch/brake pedal. So you push halfway down, and that's the clutch. All the way down is the brake. And on the later one, the latest one that I have, a late 72, it has the clutch on one side and the brake on the other side, like most normal tractors. Well, anyway, it's not only that's different. The whole steering mechanism is slightly different. The way the front wheels mount on there is slightly different, to the point where they're not interchangeable. So I give up on that one. That one I'm going to get rid of because it doesn't have enough parts that are standard to fit the one I'm using. So I'll just keep the old one, the one that Grandpa bought back in 1970 or 69, new. And anyway, that's where I got the tie rod. So I took tie rod off of that one and put it on the newer, or the one that I am using now, the new to me one. I know it's a little confusing, and got that swapped around and did all that before sunset, which was at 5:04. This being the second to the shortest day of the year. Tomorrow's the shortest day of the year, winter solstice. And after that, we start gaining. So we lose 3 seconds of daylight tomorrow. And then we start gaining. So that's a good thing. The sun starts heading north, and we're headed towards spring, even though winter is officially starting tomorrow. But anyway, that was my adventure in Tractorville. And luckily, I had the old one back there that had the interchangeable parts. So I'm going to keep that one around. I think what I'm going to do this spring is I'm going to take all the parts off of that one that I can, and then get rid of the rest of it. And I'm going to get rid of the one that doesn't have any interchangeable parts. And I might look around for another one. Who knows? But I've actually been thinking about cars. I know, I talk about cars a lot, and I change my mind a lot. But I've been watching a lot of YouTube channels dedicated to restoring old cars. And of course, we have Haggerty Insurance in town, which Haggerty's very big in the classic car world. Classic cars, classic boats. Mostly classic cars, but they also do boats. And I was watching this channel called Redline Rebuild on Haggerty's channel. And, they did first off, Haggerty did this really cool build of a Model A, two-door coupe, or not coupe, a two-door sedan. That's the one that it's all square in the back. Looks like what we would call a station wagon these days, or an SUV sort of body on it. And it just has 2 doors, but has a really big back seat. But anyway, they built one of those at the Hershey Swap and Shop a couple of years ago. There's a classic car swap in Hershey, Pennsylvania every year. I guess they didn't have it this year, but in 2019, they built this Model A from everything that they found at the show. They got a frame from somewhere, they got a body from somewhere else, and all the sheet metal, and got an engine, a running engine and transmission from another place, and just all the parts, and they completely built this car in 7 days. And then they drove the car from Hershey, Pennsylvania to Traverse City, Michigan, which was really cool. But now they've been fixing it up even further on Redline Rebuilds, and they did a complete engine. And the Model A has some pretty, nowadays it'd be kind of weird, but that engine is pretty low compression. And it doesn't have traditional bearings, like on the crank and the piston rods and all that. They use what's called babbiting, which basically it's a lead / something else, I don't know all the details of it, but they pour the bearings in and then cut a groove in it for the oil, and that's how they do the bearings on those things. And it was really interesting to watch. Look up Redline Rebuild Model A on YouTube, and they do a really cool time lapse of all of what they did to rebuild that engine. But they put that engine in that Model A in a week challenge that they did at Hershey. But what was funny about it is I was watching this, and I guess I didn't realize that where they were, because they went down to a machine shop in Ohio and had the babbiting done and the piston rods done and the crank work done, and got a high compression head, and high compression, I think it's 6-to-1 or something. It's pretty low compression even with a high compression head. But they did all this work, and they had went down to Ohio, and then I knew they were in Michigan somewhere, but I didn't know where. And I'm watching another video. I don't know what he was doing, but another video where he was moving from one shop to another in the same building. He just moved into a bigger space in the same building. It's in an industrial park. And when they were sweeping around the parking lot, I noticed, boy, those storage units look really, really familiar. I wonder. Well, we have a storage unit, at least until spring, and then we'll be able to clean it out and get rid of it. But we have a storage unit in a facility. It's about 2 miles from my house. I said, man, that looks a lot like that storage facility. And I'm watching some more videos, and one of them, they got a delivery of, I think it was a Buick straight 8 block that they're rebuilding an old Buick with a straight 8 cylinder in it. And they flashed on the sign next to the door, and it had the address. I forget what it was, but I said, that looks familiar. So I went and looked and see if that address was actually here in my hometown in Traverse City, and it was. So now I know where their shop is. So I'm looking forward to maybe catching up with those guys on that crew at some point. I mean, I'm not going to stalk them or anything, but I do know enough people that work over at Haggerty that maybe I could get in there. So I think I'm going to try to find a Model A. It's the earliest car that is super simple. And, I've always wanted like a mid-60s Chevy pickup truck or a Ford, something, that's really simple. Well, the Model A takes it all to a completely different level of simple. Thing doesn't have a water pump. And they're fairly reliable even now. The cars are 90 years old, 90 plus years old. Built 1929 through 1931. And so, they're all pushing 90 years old now. But, looking around in that world online, I see that pretty much anything you want is available for the Model A, and the cars themselves, even a reasonable driver, is not overly expensive for a classic car. And there's 3 or 4 guys on there on YouTube that have driven them daily. They're daily drivers for them, and I think, man, that would be perfect. They got mechanical brakes, so you don't have all this hydraulics to deal with. You got no fuel pump. It's all gravity feed. It's just super, super simple. They go 60 miles an hour, top speed stock, which is fine with me. I'm not talking about, this is going to be my zip code car, or no, area code car. No, what do they call it? I think they call it a zip code car. Daily driver, but I'm not going to take it on long road trips. Although, kind of my bucket list is to buy an old car like that and fly somewhere and drive it home. And there was this guy and his daughter who live in LA who bought a Model A and flew out to wherever in Oklahoma. I don't know what city it was, but flew out to Oklahoma and drove the car back to LA. So it can be done. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes peeled for a driver level Model A. I don't want no restored one, and I don't want one that's been engine swapped or anything. I want a completely stock Model A, and then over time, if I get one, get it mechanically sound if it isn't already, which it should be pretty close, but get it mechanically sound, and then couple modifications. Of course, I'll put seat belts in it if it doesn't already have them. They didn't come with seat belts back then, but I'll put at least lap belts in the thing. And about the only other mod I would think about is an overdrive. They've got these overdrive kits that they were selling even back then, but there's still companies out there that make them. And get an overdrive kit so that if you did want to go a little bit faster, you could. And you think, mechanical brakes, that doesn't sound like it'll work good. Well, they don't work as good as, anti-lock disc brakes that everybody's got now. But they're decent. good enough. And as long as you keep them up, keep them adjusted. There's another guy here in town that happens to work for Haggerty. If you look up 365 Days of A, that's 365daysofa.com. And this guy who works for Haggerty drove a 1930, I think, two-door sedan, Model A. He drove that for 365 days as his daily driver. And he even, he travels for a living. And, Haggerty's got a pretty big office in Chicago. He drove it to Chicago a couple of times, and he's been to Detroit with it a couple of times. And, this was probably 10 years ago that he did this, and he still has it, I believe. And he still works for Haggerty. And then there's another guy that works for Haggerty. He's got a couple of old cars. He's got a Corvair and a Model A Coupe. One of the, the ones that had the rumble seat or could have a rumble seat. I don't know if this guy's has a rumble seat, but it's one of those. And so he works for Haggerty, and he does a video series on their channel as well, where he's working on various little projects in his shop, and it's pretty cool. So I think, mechanically, everything's available, and everything looks like it can be done in a very modest garage. And I think I'm going to start looking for one. Hopefully I won't get one during the winter. I'll look. And if something pops up that's a really good deal, I may try to pick it up. But I'm hoping for spring, summer, and maybe a driver-level car that I could, fly somewhere and go pick it up and drive it home. I don't know. We'll see. That's just what's been going on in my head lately. Let's see what else is going on. Happy Christmas week. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. All that good stuff. Of course, I'll have another episode before the end of the year, but not before Christmas, which is, of course, this week. Normal this year for us, more or less normal. I don't think everybody that normally comes to a Christmas Eve celebration is going to be there, but got a 93-year-old grandmother that I think she's a little freaked out about it, so she may not come, but I don't know. Haven't heard the final on that, but Kathy and I are going to go out to my folks' place and do Christmas there and have dinner and all that. We got some family members in France and some family members in New Zealand that live there. So we're going to do a big group Zoom call at 7 in the evening, which will be late Christmas Day in New Zealand, and I don't know, what would that be? Kind of late in the evening on Christmas Eve in France. But that'll be fun, I guess. I'm not going to participate too much in the Zoom call, other than I'm the only one that seems to use Zoom anyway, so we'll make it happen. So that's the plans. And then, of course, we're going to get up on Christmas morning and drive down to Grand Haven, drop the dogs off at my folks' place, and then head down. And Kathy's going to drive down separate this time because she's going to stay down there for a week or so. And then she'll be coming back, and I'll come back on Boxing Day. Yes, I do talk about Boxing Day. I do know it exists. We don't really celebrate it here in the U.S., but since it's on Saturday, I'll celebrate it just the same. So that'll be cool. Although, like I said, it's this whole COVID thing's been kind of weird. Our illustrious idiot governor has done her 3-week pause, starting in the beginning of November, and then extended it another 12 days, and that was supposed to expire on the 20th, which I guess is still officially today. So it was supposed to end today, and then tomorrow we were supposed to be able to go to restaurants again. BS. So now she's extended it to January 15th, but she opened up everything else. So I don't know what she has against restaurants and people that work there, but yuck. I feel bad. My niece works at an Olive Garden, and luckily she's getting good unemployment, and her employer is taking care of the insurance and all that stuff, even though they're laid off for COVID reasons, and the unemployment got extended and all that, so she'll be okay. But geez, it's just, what do they have against restaurants? Restaurants weren't even the problem, at least from what I understand. More of a problem was at home gatherings and whatnot. So I don't know. I'm not going to go off on that too much here, but I thought I'd mention it since it was on my mind. And it's not like a big deal. I don't go out to restaurants all that often. But on Sunday mornings, normally we would do the ham radio nets, and then meet somewhere at noon for what we called brunch. But it was usually breakfast or lunch, depending on where we went. And, it was my folks and other friends from around the area, usually 6, 7 of us, not a huge group or anything. And we like to do that. And, now it's been done for over a month or a month and a half, whatever it is. It's crazy, and then the poor people that own restaurants or work at restaurants, it's this whole class of businesses that are really taking it on the chin compared to, the rest, like technically my life hasn't changed a whole lot other than lack of travel, as I talked about before. Of course, we're not going to conferences, and I haven't been down to the office in Columbus in over a year. But for the most part, I'm doing my normal job. We're doing normal business, maybe a little up, part of the year anyway. And, all's good. And, Kathy's not working anymore, so everything's normal there, So we've been lucky, I'm very grateful that, how it's worked out for me in particular, because it's rough out there. I know I have friends that drive for Uber for a living, and I'm sure that's way down than it. I haven't looked. I drove for Uber, just for fun, and I guess I'm still active. I suppose I might have to redo some paperwork or whatever, but I gave up on doing it because in the wintertime up here it's not much going on anyway, but in the summer it was gangbusters. If I wanted to go blow 6 hours on a Saturday, I could make $150, and even after paying for gas. So it was a great little side gig. But some people rely on that stuff, and it's got to be down. I don't know how that works. I know, they were talking about it would work for, getting unemployment and whatnot, if you're self-employed or a gig worker. So I guess that's a good thing. So I don't know, anybody out there listening to me? I know of one listener that was, that's an Uber driver, or Uber Lyft, or both, or all the above, or whatever. I guess DoorDash, you can do pretty good with that these days. DoorDash or Uber Eats. I thought about that. That might be fun. You get out of the house and whatever. But the thing that stops me on that is drinks. I don't want to haul drinks. They're a pain in the ass. Unless they got some good way of hauling them without them possibly spilling in the vehicle. I don't want no part of that. I guess I got enough drink holders in the van. I could put, one in each drink holder, but what a pain in the ass to deliver. I don't know. Anybody doing that? Let me know. Mike@MikeDell.com. So, anywho, yeah, it's getting a little past 11 p.m. here, so I better get this buttoned up and sent out so that it comes out on Sunday. Officially. Normally I would do it between the ham radio nets in the morning, but this morning I just didn't feel like it. Sometimes when you just don't feel like it, you don't want to put out a bad podcast. But then, now that I've got all my accomplishments done for the day and everything's doing good and tractor's back to running condition with headlights. Actually, it kind of looks pretty cool. Maybe I'll throw a picture of that in the show notes as well. And of course, you'll see, I think the picture that I got with the lights on has the front wheel off, and I was working on the tie rod. But yeah, so maybe I'll throw that in the show notes over at MikeDell.com. And if you're using Overcast, you can click Show Images, and it'll show the images. But I don't know what other apps actually pick up the images from the feed. But we'll find out. And doing good with the podcast help desk. First week of bi-weekly. And got my Wednesday and Saturday shows out. And I think I did okay. And got another one on Wednesday, another one on Saturday. We're keeping to a schedule. That's a good thing. My podcast improvement plan for 2021. Of course, doing Podcast Insider with Todd. Although this coming week, Todd will be in Hawaii and not available to record. So I'll probably just record a short thing. And then I got a bunch of clips from our other team members at Blueberry. That'll be fun. And then Todd and I on New Year's Eve are going to do a retrospective year in podcasting. So we'll try to get that out on the right day before the end of the year. And so that should be interesting. We're just going to go over the big news stories of the year, some of the big stuff going on at Blueberry, and maybe some predictions for 2021. I guess everybody's doing that, but yeah, might as well jump on the bandwagon. By the way, this is episode 352. It's amazing. 353. Sorry about that. The last one was 352. This will be 353. It's amazing. I've been doing this for coming up on 16 years, and you can see how inconsistent it is because other people that have been doing it that long, Trucker Tom, I want to say he's somewhere north of 2,300. Todd, Geek News Central, he's coming up on, I think he's coming up on 1,800, 1,900, something like that. So he's up there. So it's pretty amazing. No Agenda with Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak. I think they're somewhere north of 12 or 1,300 episodes, something like that. I don't pay attention to other people's numbers either, but I kind of like to keep the tradition of the indie podcaster and number my episodes. So, and that's probably not an accurate number because I put out little special things, and I don't know, at one point I was able to call it in from my phone and do a little shorty episodes and stuff, and I went through a little phase there where I was doing it as an audio blog, which I don't know if those got into the numbering system. So 353 is probably not completely accurate, but close enough for government work. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and all that good stuff. I don't know why the Amazon talking tube behind me decided to announce that it was playing something that I didn't hear from the Mac Mini. Oh, well. I got to remember to turn off all the extraneous noise. I had a couple of ham radio interruptions in Podcast Help Desk on Saturday. I just left them in there. A little Morse code doesn't hurt anybody. So, anyway, have a good week. Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Boxing Day, whatever other holiday greeting. Yeah, I'm equal opportunity here. But don't be offended if you don't celebrate Christmas and I say Merry Christmas. Christmas is a day. It's the 25th of December. So have a happy 25th of December. regardless of what you celebrate. Catch me next time.